Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our latest and greatest webinar. We have an awesome group of panelists here to talk about route optimization and stock balance intelligence. This is sort of a part two to our first webinar that we did on route optimization in the oil and gas space. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, be sure to go to our website, our social media, or even our YouTube page. It's all on there. We are so excited to get this started, and we will also be sharing a recording of this webinar tomorrow on our social media. And we're excited to get things started. If you are unfamiliar with what Blueprint does, we bridge the gap between strategy and execution in one short sentence. I'm sure Thomas and Jason will go much more in depth on that, but I will pass it along to them soon. But first, I want to give you guys a couple of housekeeping tips. We will be answering any questions that you have live. If for some reason we do have too many questions that goes past time, we will make sure to get back to you on that. But how you ask a question is just simply clicking on the Q&A button on the bottom, and you can submit it with your name or you can submit it anonymously. So completely up to you, and we want to make sure that we are tailoring this to you. So again, if you have any questions, be sure to add that in there. My name is Ruthie. I know I haven't mentioned that yet, but my name is Ruthie Senanayaka. I work on the marketing department at Blueprint. So if you have any questions about what we do throughout this time, and if you want to schedule a meeting follow-up to talk to either Thomas or Jason or any of our other awesome teammates, you can simply email info@bpcs.com. But right now we are live on Facebook, which has been shared to Twitter and LinkedIn. So wherever you are joining us from, we are so excited to have you on here. And without further ado, I will pass it along to Thomas.
All right, thanks, Ruthie. Appreciate it. Jason, you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jason Mccracken. I'm an account executive here at Blueprint, with my primary focus being retail and the ever-evolving world that is retail, including supply chain, loyalty, etc.
Cool, thanks. So yeah, I'm Thomas Shaw, and I'm the director of our client development team here at Blueprint, and 20 plus years in this space across a number of industries, but primarily focused on data analytics, historically business intelligence, data science, and then all the app dev that brings those things together. So a lot of management, strategy consulting, and then the IT to help facilitate that knowledge. So it's good to have Jason here with us today. He is he's the star on our team when it comes to just the retail knowledge and the inner workings and all the things that maybe I thought I appreciated what's happening in the back office to make those engines go for stores and the retail world that's changing so fast. Some of the things we'll focus on today within Power Apps and route optimization. When I first we started talking about this demo, I was like, guys, Amazon mastered this 20 years ago, right? And changed the game on this. And but what we want to show today is with Power Apps, what it can do out of the box, which is its geospatial features. So this isn't some well-baked solution demo. It's more a representation of what the tool has out of the box. When we have our Microsoft, our M365 subscription, I don't think we all know just what we have at our fingertips. And so just to give an example of what that looks like today, and what some of the geospatial features are. But just in general, as a company, Blueprint's been building low-code, no-code applications and Power Apps for about 5 years, and a number of things. It can just be things like RPA for automation and flow. It can be exception time tracking applications, or how you're allocating your cost across different organization or departments within your organization. Anything it can be exception handling, HR apps. Yeah, it's the guy who originally built this this demo, the long history in oil and gas, and so it's building operator-specific information into these apps and making them more intelligent based on what an operator's roles and responsibilities are. Those are some of the things that we've done with it, and it's just so much you can do without writing a line of code, which I love. But today we really want to show a couple of things. One, just these new native geospatial controls. I'm going to show two very basic demos, and one is just to show what's native to Power Apps and specifically Azure Maps, and then two, how you can supplement that. So when we talk about route optimization, we're thinking about all the things that go into mapping, and how can I make that more intelligent? Not just, I don't let my daughters, when the first year of driving, get on highways. That's a feature you can turn on and off in their map applications on their phone, right? Just going past those basic features of where you can add more intelligence to it that is very specific to your organization and the function that you're trying to achieve here. So first one will just be showing some of the basics. Second, we'll show some hypotheticals on how you can layer in information to route optimization and make it intelligent route optimization. Jason, anything else you want to add there before I set up?
No, I think you set it up nicely, and I'd love to, let's go to the next step.
All right. So, what are those things like business logic and things you can add in, and also just how you can weight that. We'll talk about that too. But first, there's some these are these terms in housekeeping. There's prereqs. If you're doing this at home or at your organization, just a few things to consider before you use these features. You have to enable the geospatial features in the Power Platform Admin Center for the environment, and that requires us agreeing to a terms of service. Read the terms of service. We all do, right? Making sure things like the addresses you're going to be sent off to, and another service to return the data, and the things of that nature. So it's multiple ones you have to agree to make this work. And then an admin must ensure that those geospatial controls are not blocked by the environment's DLP, the data loss protection policies. So that's something that, depending on how your policies are set up, you might need to check with an admin of the environment to make sure that those aren't blocked. And then all users must just be at least basic users, basic level users in the environment. Okay, so let's jump in. So we're, again, talking about just these native features, and what we really want to, talking about these current capabilities, and is, when I say native, it doesn't require any additional API or service calls here. So I'm going to type in a few addresses where this is a map of Seattle, greater Seattle area. So let's do Starbucks. I'm going to put in a few addresses for Starbucks locations here, and you see as I type them out. Yes. Sorry
to butt in real quick, but I don't see your screen shared.
Oh, thank you. That would help. Okay, how about now?
Yep, I see it.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So all we did here is just from a home screen, just so you know this isn't smoke and mirrors. Okay, so once we're in here, thank you, Ruthie. As we start put in some addresses from again in this greater Seattle area. I don't type and talk very well, so bear with me. But you'll see that it does have type ahead. Now you can change the settings on this to be just to within one country. You can add multiple countries. Again, it's all your configuration, how dynamic you want it to be. But you can add a number of restrictions or how you want to open it up. And one thing you'll also see is, so it does have the type ahead, but also it's giving me the lat long. So you nerds out there like myself, that's very important and want that. And how else you're using it. And we'll come back to that later too, when you want to dynamically load in addresses instead of entering these manually, that'll come back into play. So look, I'm cheating. Maybe I've done this before on this demo. So I'm gonna add a couple more. Entertain a crowd for me, Jason. I'm going to do these addresses.
All right. So while he's entering addresses, you know, this is we're using Starbucks here, but let's imagine if you're a Napa Auto Parts, if you're a Firestone tire company, Pep Boys, something like that, something where you have local stores, but they do constant throughout the day stock balancing from store to store, or even from a very local DC to a store. You know, when I used to run Office Depot stores, there's a local DC in Tukwila, Washington. So you could stock balance from the DC if it was a customer need that, you know, that had to happen that day or the next day. And much like that, if I've got like a Napa Auto Store or a Firestone or a Pep Boy, something like that, we've all seen that guy or the young lady driving in the little pickup truck with the hat on it that's like going from store to store, just bringing parts, right? Well, what this will really allow a company like that to do is really plan out and map that driver's day, right? To really optimize not only what part of town they're putting the person in, but just their pathway, and so they're driving in a most efficient way. I'll talk more on that later, but it looks like Shaw's ready to pick up and talk about his use case here.
Yeah, thanks, sir. So one thing I wanted to show to you, I'm going to delete one of these and re-enter it, because you can also, there's another thing you can limit here is how many suggestions you want. If you, let's say it's struggling for some reason, or you're wanting to make it more efficient, considering what type of environment you have, you can limit. So we have it configured right now to limit 4 suggestions, and you can change what that number is too. So I just want to show that as well. So once you're here, and I have a number of these locations, and zoom in and out, right? What it can also do is click on the card. So what happens when you pull one of these up, pull up an individual address, you can configure this too. This is for you Power BI users out there. This is just like the hover feature where you're actually pulling up a sub-report or another report file within there. And so you can configure this to have any type of information that's relative to that address or that lat long coordinate. That's one of my favorite features in Power BI, where you can just add so much context without having to navigate in and out of reports, right? And you have that relative information. So the same types of things here, whatever you want. That's you know, say this was a service, you know, call, and you wanted to pull up information for that company and what that service called specific, you know, problem areas are, right? So just can learn more about it. So these are programmable cards, but before we get into that part, these are still all out of the box features. So we have routing off. I'm going to turn it on, and you can see where it automatically creates this map, and it did it on the order that you know, we selected these here. So right now it's set at 75 minutes. Interesting, traffic must have spiked in Seattle in the last hour. It was shorter than an hour ago when I pulled this up. So that's around 40 miles. And what we have here is, so one feature we have in here that's again out of the box is just the car or truck option. So yeah, I'm in Texas, you know, every road's ready for trucks, but I guess there is a little bit different. And so when I pull up the truck and change that feature, you can see it changed the duration to 80 minutes, you know, from 75 minutes, and it's changed a mile slightly. So again, that's just a native, you know, built-in feature. And this is an example of, you know, some of the things. There's a number of other built-in features like that available, but also, you know, you might, that's what we'll get into here shortly is how you can layer in more features like that as well. So that's the built-in geospatial features. Let's look at customizing, you know, Azure Maps. So again, we have the this now came from a SharePoint list, and that can read any kind of list, any kind of application, or where you're outputting a number of addresses. That's what I use to pre-populate the features of this this map here. And again, this is a number of different locations in the greater Seattle area. But like we talked about the custom cards. So when I have one of these highlighted, you can see this is again like a sub-report in Power BI, right, where I can put in different information and features. So what I want to do here is now I want to see from my current location. So let's say I'm at here. If I'm at this address, I want to see how my route is to any one of these individual locations. So I'm going to click on the little calculator icon, and this is going to take a few seconds to load just in our local environment here. But what it's doing is calling out to the Power Automate job that's calling the Azure Maps API to calculate how far it is to every one of those points. And so, as this comes back, Jeopardy music, now you can see it'll sort by the distance or duration. Right now it's sorted by distance. I'm sorry, duration for each one. So I can change that. I want to make duration, switch back to distance. And what I have here is, let's say for some reason, the cost per mile on the labor or whatever this is, some kind of internal metric they have, we have 49 cents. Let's say, oh, well, it's, I think everybody's talking about inflation right now. Let's say that went up to 59 cents. You can see that is I didn't even have to hit calculate. That is a dynamic calculation. So as these numbers change and the dollar amounts for each one, these are, again, it's just very basic added features that Azure Maps has, and you can add to these cards and then add other things, to it as well. Now, if I want to think about the specific, so as you want to route to each one of these, and I see, okay, it's an $18 cost of this trip, 55 minutes to go 28 miles. It's definitely in Seattle. That sounds right. I'm looking at the route on each one of these, then you can see how it gives me what that route looks like. But also, let's look at the turn by turn. So if I come up here and turn that on, I can get turn by turn directions for those. So now this is ideally intended to be used for your internal route optimization. Let's say decision makers, where they're considering things like cost. That doesn't mean you have to use it for turn-by-turn directions. You certainly can, and that's what we're showing, that feature is available. But this is more for an administrative, like a call center, operator, anybody else that's in charge of, where are my drivers and how do I assign them a route? I need to make a decision. I can shoot them those turn-by-turn, but they're probably, all using their own application to do navigation. Now, say you have safety protocols, you don't want them using that. There's certain roads they shouldn't use. There's certain, the safety precautions that they need to take. So that's where you can control that, put those features in here that their native map application on their phone might not have. So that's thing. If you want them to use this, then that's where they would want to use these turn-by-turn directions, and to be able to monitor that as well. So there's a lot of applications here where you can change that, optimize it. And what, another example might be, again, like when we pull up a card, each one of these individual cards, we could add more information to things like what is the reason for going to that location. So let's say we're an HVAC and plumbing and appliance repair company. Well, I may not want to send the person who specializes in plumbing to the HVAC problem, or service call, right? And then even within that, we all know how complicated the HVAC units are today, and so there might be different specialties within by two people that have that same specialized area of expertise, then some might be more skilled or have the actual parts on hand to where I want to send them. I want to make a more intelligent decision. That's where the intelligent part of the intelligent route optimization comes into play, where I can add more information to those types of things to make more informed decisions about where I'm sending someone. So that can all be dynamic. Those things you can plug and play. Think about having a number of different driving, I shouldn't say drivers, but controlling factors up here besides just cost. Around whether it's skills and the like. Jason, do you want to give me a break here and talk about some of the other options outside of that's kind of more the service industry?
Yeah.
But some of the things you were starting to talk about earlier with places like a Pet Boys or a Discount Tire.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, again, companies like Pet Boys, Discount Tire, Napa, those are obviously great use cases. Additionally, myself, and for about 5 years, I owned a tow truck company in Las Vegas, which if you ever want to, really work hard, go tow a truck, go tow vehicles on a 120-degree day on a 21-foot flatbed. That's a hard day at work. But where I really see this also being useful is in like the towing industry or in service industry, HVAC, plumbing, where they're really putting the right person on the right route to the right job. And in addition to that, we haven't even really talked about the mileage tracking, right? Like if you've got a person who is in control of typically $100,000 vehicle and probably another $100,000 of equipment or more on the truck, we just want to make sure that everybody's keeping honest with the miles that they're tracking and where they're going. And although this particular version of the tool doesn't track the vehicle per se, you can match the paths given and the miles driven to driver logs to make sure that the drivers are using the vehicle in the appropriate manner. And when you're talking about route optimization, and you're really talking about putting the right person with the right skill set and the right equipment at the right place at the right time. Not only does that really help your cost and time and materials for your drivers and your equipment, but additionally, it really allows you to give a better, accurate time of arrival to your customer. So if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I was expecting this part at 2 o'clock, it's now 5." Yes, you can, of course, dispatch the driver and ask them where they are and do all that. And most likely you would. But what this does, this gives you an extra kind of sense of security if you need to just to validate timing and let the customer know, hey, this person's delayed because of such and such. It looks like on my map they're about 25 minutes away. They'll be there. So it really is. It's not only a mapping tool and a route optimization tool. It's a customer service tool, and that's what we feel is really important here because we're looking at Starbucks here, but you can plug in really any use case, any type of company that you want, or any kind of locations that you want, and really get that view from the bridge without having a lot of high-tech ODB2 sensors and all these things in vehicles. It just really gives you a great view from the bridge without a lot of capital investment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the dynamic, factor of just keeping this live where it's updating all the time. You're not sending your drivers out just with, one set of instructions for the morning. You can have the continuous dynamic update of this throughout the day where it's sending out, you saw where we automated addresses in here. Just think about any other piece of information you can automate as well. It looks like I have a little one badge by my Q&A, Ruthie.
Let me ask this question. So this one came in and it says, how can this be made to scale with large organizations?
Great question. So you saw a little bit of the lag we had in just pulling up these addresses. That's just the small POC type environment that we have running this in right now. But it goes back to a lot of the features that I was talking about earlier of where you want to control the data set and how much information it's processing. When we talk about limiting by country, you can limit that by a number of areas, however you want to geocode it. How much information, how much type ahead you want just in the address, but also how much you want to put into each one of these cards, how much dynamic information you want to have, all things to consider. And around optimization and tuning, one thing that we specialize in with Blueprint is optimization of your environment. We have a lakehouse optimization tool that does specifically this. It's trying to understand how to fine tune the performance of your data estate. And not everything is about just saving costs. It's how can I get more value out of the cost? Well, the same thing applies here, where I want to understand how to apply the best value to my application. And what we're always juggling is performance with compute cost. And what that gets me, it's I always go back to Power BI and Tableau and tools like that, where I want to have all the data. Give me all the data. Don't put it in a pre-canned set. I want to ad hoc and go crazy with it. Well, that has a cost to it, and that has a performance. If I want that to perform quickly, then that has a cost. And then if but I got to think about the value of that too, and our users. So same thing here. It's always that balance and figure out how to how to configure your application to scale and as you grow more. And that's another way to do that is through data governance. In Blueprints, we have a data governance practice, and to me, data governance, not just me, to most people, data governance is a bad word, and it's not by any means. It's data personalization. How do you tailor data to the user? For someone who is just responsible for the Seattle area, in a use case like this, why show them what's happening? Why bring in all that data that's in New York or Dallas or other parts of the country, or even other countries for that matter? Control your data sets and understand how you can tailor that data to someone to make it perform better as well. And that's how you lower costs. So help me world, let's change the perception around data governance and how it's all about data personalization, how you can tailor it. That's the way I'd recommend them, when you think about how to scale. But the features are there. It's just it's just a matter of how you control the data set.
You're absolutely on point, Sean. I see, Ruthie, we have another question, but I just want to add on to that real quick. I think one thing that we don't want to gloss over that I know, Shaw, that you mentioned that I really want to double click on here is that cost per mile feature, right? Especially when you're looking at route optimization for like the service industry or anything where you're pre-planning a driver's day. If you're truly an operator of your business and really into the financials, you can then quantify how much the true cost to serve is for the driver for that day, not only his salary, but the cost, and really get into more, I don't want to say minutia, but the more minute details that affect your overall profit margin and viability. So these are things that typically aren't in a lot of other solutions. Even if you just use like Waze or something, or Google Maps, of course you're gonna be able to get where you want to go. But this is really for that back of that house operator who really wants to fine tune their financial aspect and their customer service aspect, and that cost per mile feature is a key component to that.
I'm going to pop on super quick just to bring up the second question that we had. And this one says, can you add more features like geospatial updates and industry relative traffic, real estate features?
Yes, absolutely. You saw things like the car and truck feature. That's when I think about traffic restrictions and things that impact, or it could be things like I said earlier, not wanting certain vehicles on the highway. It's completely, how about weather? I'm in Dallas, Texas right now, and I think it's colder than where you guys are there, Jason. Nobody's going anywhere. It's 25 degrees and it's been sleeting all day. Let's get live feeds from NOAA and have the weather impact and how that, when you think about how that can impact traffic and then the type of vehicle you have too, we absolutely can have those. So what are the real estate features? I think was part of the question there, of what what's in that area? What are you trying to navigate? Again, what type of vehicle do you have? What features do you have on the vehicle? Whether it's things like four-wheel drive and or weight distribution. All of this can, going back to what Jason said, we want to optimize customer quality and service and response time. And so all of these things that can impact the route or the driver's safety, we definitely can, and just in bringing in live data like traffic and weather, you certainly can. And I think part of it was industry relative too. Sure, in the oil and gas industry, every one of those companies are rated on safety. So you have to think about what their safety protocols are and what they have to take into consideration. So what's the safest route possible for this specific driver in that type of vehicle? That's a great question. We definitely layer those features in.
Thanks for answering that one. We did have another one come through that says, what is the mapping technology behind Azure Maps?
That's a great question. I just learned this a couple of weeks ago. It's TomTom. TomTom's still around, folks. Great names, a great app, and it's the oldest modern technology navigation source that I'm aware of. And so yes, it is. As much as we are touting Microsoft here, it's not Bing Maps, it's TomTom.
Thank you.
Well,
I think those are all the questions that we had come through. Does anyone have any other questions that we have not answered yet? Feel free to add them into the Q&A or in the chat box.
Great. Add any questions you want. Happy to follow up. There's a number of applications where this can be leveraged, and really what we just wanted to show is just the out of the box basic capabilities. Again, this is not some finalized solution as much as just the features that you have, and you can toy with yourself, and before you start going and looking for some of the route optimization software that's out there and subscribe to that. There's a premium on that, as we all know. We live in an instant gratification world, and I know many people shop based on time of delivery more than the quality of the product, for example. And that's one example that Jason and I saw when we were doing a little research for this. We were going around the local tire shops, not the majors, not the small mom and pops, and they tell you, you don't know how many people come in there and they want the tire they can get the same day and the next day, even when it wasn't an urgent situation, more than the best quality for that vehicle. It never ceases to amaze me in the world. That's the world we live in. So, anything like that, or other areas you can think of apply it. We'd love to talk to you more about it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to chat through all of these really cool topics and answer some really great questions.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everyone who joined as well for taking the time to hop on this Zoom call and listen in. If you did hop on halfway through, don't worry. We do have a recording. We will be posting it on our social media. So be sure to follow us on all of the pages. We're on everything. But we just want to say thanks again, and we hope that you will join our webinars in the future. If you'd like to be added to a mailing list for future webinars, you can always email us at info@bpcs.com. And even if you'd like to carry on this conversation, we'd like to connect more with you. But thank you so much, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.